Shangkaracharya Sutara Small Dham Saraswati Goswami Bhagavad ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhakti ki jai, Sri Radha Krishna Mo Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Guru Dwarka Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to Just Mary. All glories to Just Mary. Thank you very much.
So today's class from the Srimad Bhagavatam is from the 5th canto, 5th chapter, text number 1, given on the 20th of January 1969 in Los Angeles.
Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Sarakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jitapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tang Sajivam Sadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Visathan Nitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namastuti. In the last meeting, we are discussing about the life of a fallen Brahmin, Ajahn. He was addicted to prostitute, therefore his high standard of life became degraded. This morning also, we are reading in the Iskcon that God is apapa vidyam. O means not, and papa means sin. And vidham, infect. The God is never infected by sin, sinful activity. Common sense, just like a king orders somebody to be killed. This man should be killed. This killing is sinful for the ordinary citizen. But killing by the order of the supreme executive head, the president or the king, that is not criminal. If you say that killing by me is criminal, why it is not criminal for you, the president or the king? I am giving a crude example. Similarly, if you go higher and higher, when you come to God, first of all, what is the conception of God? Conception of God is great. Nobody is greater than Him and nobody is equal to Him. That is God. Asama urdha. The exact Sanskrit word is asama urdha. Asama means not equal. Nobody can be equal to God. This is analyzed by great acharyas. They have analyzed the characteristics of God. They have characterized, the characteristics are 64. And out of the 64, we living entities, we have got 50 only. And that is also in very minute quantity. 50 qualities of God we have got, but that is very in minute quantity. Take for example, just like God has got also the tendency to love young girls. Take it for a crude example, just like God is dancing with young girls. But we have also the same tendency. We also want to be surrounded by young girls and dance, we enjoy. But the thing is that you can enjoy in the company of a few girls, that is minute quantity. But God can dance with an unlimited number. That is enough. These are crude examples. So, these 64 qualities, they have analyzed that we living entities, we have got in minute quantities. And amongst the living entities, the first perfection is to be seen in the life of Brahma, who is the chief living entity within this universe. So, similarly, Lord Shiva has got 55, Lord Narayan has got 60, but Krishna has got in full 64. 7%, 100%, all the qualities. Therefore, either Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or the living entities, nobody can be equal to him. This is the conception of God. Asama urdha. And in the Bhagavad Gita, you have seen that Krishna says, Matta paratara nasti kinchid asti dhananjaya. my dear Dhananjaya, my dear Arjuna, there is nobody superior to me. So, just like some heating agent, we have got several heating agents. You have got heater in your apartment, oven in your apartment. There are so many different varieties of heater. But the heat of the sun cannot be compared with any other heat. You cannot say that because I have got little heat, I have become sun. And it is ludicrous. That's not possible. So those who are claiming that I am God, everyone is God, and they are simply, what can I say, less intelligent person. They have no conception what is God. They do not know what is God. This claim that I am God, that means he has no idea what is God. Therefore he is falsely claiming. You may have minute quantity of God's quality, but that does not mean you are God. Just like the same example. You may have a minute quantity of the total heat of the sun, but that does not mean you are sun. So qualitatively, we are one. Everyone has got some temperature, 98 degrees. But not that a million degrees. That is not possible. Why a million? If you rise your temperature to 107 degrees, then finish your life. These are practical. So, because Lord Krishna is all powerful, you cannot compare with Krishna. He is a Papavidham. No contamination can touch him. But for that reason you cannot say, you cannot imitate Krishna, you cannot say that no contamination can touch me. No, that is not possible. Therefore the whole life, this human form of life, is a chance to purify so that we may approach. At least if we get that 50 degrees, 50 parts or 50 fractional portion of God's quality, even in minute quality, then we can approach God. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said that Pavitram Paramam. Pavitram means purity. So you are Krishna, you are the supreme pure. So because we are trying, by Krishna consciousness, we are trying to approach Krishna. Just like if you want to approach the sun, the same example can be given. Everything is there in the nature. If you study minutely, you become learned philosopher. That if we want to enter the sun planet, then you must equip yourself, just like you are trying to go to the moon planet by artificially dressing, but still you cannot stay there more than a few hours. If we suppose that somebody has gone there. So this is the position. If you want to enter into the sun planet also, that is also planet. That is also possible. If it is possible to enter into the moon planet, then it is also possible to enter into the sun planet. Why not? And there are living entities. We get information from Vedic literature. But you have to raise your temperature so that it can exist. Similarly, God is supreme pure. If you want to go back to Godhead, then you have to become pure without any contamination of this material. The contamination of material world is called sin. That is sin. Just like you infect some disease, germ, you become diseased. I've got some infection, so I am diseased. You may know it or not know it. That doesn't matter. If you infect knowingly or unknowingly, you will be diseased. So what is that infection? That infection that is stated in the Iskcon, we read every morning, Ishavassamidam sarvam. This everything what we see, either in the sky or in the water or outside our vision, everything belongs to God. Ishavassamidam sarvam. So, everything God's property. You cannot, if you are son of God, you cannot take anything without God's permission. Just like even your father's property. You will inherit your father's, that's a fact. But suppose your father has got on the table $1,000. If you take it without his permission, if you think that is my father's money, but by law you become a criminal. Your father can prosecute you criminally. That is the state law. Even it is your father's money, even your father is very kind, but if you take your father's money without his permission, then you are a criminal. And what to speak of others? Similarly, we are all sons of God. That's a fact. Krishna says, Sarvajonishu kaunteya sambhavanti murtayaja tasana mahajjami brahma ahamabija pradapita. Aham, Krishna says, that all these living entities in 8,400,000 of species, it doesn't mean that only human beings, the animals, the birds, beasts, trees, everything, all living entities. They are all sons of God. He says, Aham bija pradapita. The material nature is the mother. Just like in ordinary way, the father and mother requires to give a birth to a child. Similarly, this material nature is the mother. We have got this body from the mother, material nature. Just like we get the body from the mother's womb. Father gives the seed and mother gives the body. In the combination, we get out. Similarly, Aham bija pradapita, Krishna impregnates this material nature with the living entities, and when there is creation, they come out. This is the process. So, we are fallen in this material condition of life, and because we have disobeyed without the permission of Father, we have misused our independence, therefore we are condemned within this material world. The Ishavasa, the Iskcon teaches us, therefore reminds us that, my dear human being, the Shastras, the scriptures, the Vedas, they are meant for human beings, not for the dogs, cats. Those who are not taking advantage of these scriptures or Vedic literatures, they are no more than animals. Because animals, they cannot take advantage of this knowledge. But human beings can take.
Therefore it is said, indicated in the Shastras, that this body is very suitable boat for crossing over this ocean of nescience. We are in the ocean, this outer space, the big space within this universe. It is to be considered just like a big ocean. And all the planets, they are just like islands. Therefore, in the Vedic literature, sometimes these planets are called Dvipa. Dvipa means island. Seta Dvipa. This planet is called Jambu Dvipa. Just like in the ocean, there are many hundreds of small, big islands. Similarly, the ocean of air or outer space, there are so many planets. They are called Dvipas. So Ishavasa, so all these belongs to God. And we are, because we are His sons, we have got the right to use our father's property, but not illegally. What is allotted to us by our father, we can accept. That's it. One who lives, that is stated in the Ishopanishad, that Kurvaneva Karmani, Jisi Vise Satan Sama. If you accept this principle, then you can live for hundreds of years without any sin. Otherwise, you become complicated in the laws of material nature. And so long we are complicated, entangled by the laws of material nature, then we shall have to transmigrate from this one kind of body to another kind of body. And our material existence will be prolonged. So, here I shall try to explain the teachings of Rishabdev. He is teaching to his sons. My dear son, Nayang Deha Deha Bhajang Loki. My dear sons, this body, Niloka, he has particularly mentioned Niloka, this body in the human society. Ayana Deha, this body, Nayana Deha Dehu Bhajang Loka. Dehu Bhajang means anyone who is embodied. So, the cats, dogs, fleas, birds, beasts, insects, reptiles, they have all body. But he is specifically mentioning Niloki, the body in the human society. Ayamadeha, this body in the human society, Nayamadeha, Dehu Bhajang Niloki. Kostana Kaman Arhatavir Ujangji. It is not meant for working very hard to satisfy the senses. Why you are working so hard? What is the principle? What is the aim? Everyone is working very hard. What is it? Sense gratification. So, Rishabdev says, simply for sense gratification, we should not work so hard. That is the verdict of Vedic literature. If you say that we have got senses, so in order to keep the body fit, we have to give something for the enjoyment of the senses. That is accepted, yes. But don't aggravate it. The Shastra says that do not increase artificially the demands of the senses. Then you will be entangled. Just like eating. We have got tongue, we have got belly, we require to eat something for maintaining the body. That's right, you maintain. But do not try to satisfy the senses, tongue or belly or any other senses, unreasonably. Why? That's unreasonable. What is that unreasonable? Tena tattena bhunjita. What is ordained to you, what is allotted to you, you eat. That's like for human being. Human being, Krishna, and God has given so many nice things. God has given us grains, rice, pulses, vegetables, and fruits, flowers, so many milk. Are they not sufficient for maintaining our body and soul together? Yes. Why not? Those who are vegetarians, strictly, take for example we, all the members in the temple, we live simply on these things, fruits, vegetables, grains, milk, that's all. So are we dying for want of food? Then why should we eat meat? What is the reason? Simply for satisfaction of the tongue? If I can live peacefully, otherwise it is allotted to me by God. Why shall I give trouble to another animal for satisfaction of my tongue? What is the reason? If you have no food, of course in the deserted country just like Arabia, simply desert, sand. So for them they can kill some animal and eat because they cannot die for want of food. But here in America, you have got sufficient food stock. Why should you kill animals? You have got sufficient grain, sufficient food, sufficient meat, and is it very nice thing that you take milk from the cow who is your mother and kill at the same time? Is that very good business? Therefore, Rishabdev says that this human form of body is not meant for mismanaging the whole thing for the satisfaction of the senses. That is not meant for human being. Avaloka, Niloka. The human society is speaking to the human. We are speaking to the human society. We are not calling cats and dogs, come here, please hear Srimad Bhagavad. That is not possible, they cannot. But we are inviting those who are enlightened human beings, please come. Just try to understand what is this Krishna consciousness movement and be happy, that's all. We want to see every human being to be happy. That is our program. So, Rishabdev says, Kastan Kaman. That's right, we are not criticizing the modern method of living. Of course, automatically it becomes criticized. But we are speaking from the Shastras. He says, Rishabdev says, Kastan Kaman. For your sense gratification, do not arrange something very dangerous, a very tiresome labors. Make your life simplified. That is allotted by Krishna. We have got in a place, New Vrindavan, in West Virginia. With little effort, they produce so much vegetables that they cannot eat, they cannot finish. They cannot finish. So, God has given us land, God has given us producing experience. So, wherever you live, it doesn't matter. If you have got a little plot of land and a cow, your whole economic quotient is solved. Why you should work so hard day and night? So we have created a civilization simply working hard day and night, and the purpose is self-realization. That's all. That is prohibited. Make your life simplified. Save your time for Krishna consciousness. That is the program. Don't be implicated with sinful activities. Simple life. Just like your father says, my dear boy, you take your food just in time and you do this work and I will satisfy. If you do that, the father is satisfied. But if you take from the pocket of your father or from the gas box without his permission, then you are criminal. So, by God's arrangement, everything is there. Everything. Purnamidam. Purnamidam, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamuchyate. Everything is complete in this world. There is no scarcity. We have simply created scarcity by our mismanagement. But if we take up the laws as they are prescribed in the scriptures and live peacefully, there is no scarcity. My Guru Maharaj used to say that in this world there is no scarcity by the arrangement of God. But the only scarcity is this Krishna consciousness. People are not Krishna conscious. They are materially conscious. They are sensually conscious. That has to be changed. So Rishabdev says that to satisfy our senses, that is also available in the life of a hawk. Kastan kaman arhati jad birbhujam. Birbhujam, an animal who eats stew, birbhujam. That means the hog. The hog is also an animal, a living entity, and you will find that it is working whole day. Wherever there is stew, simply searching up. Research work, where there is stew. Because he has been made into that abominable condition of life that he is eating stew, still he has to find out where is stew, where is stew. You see? So there are different ways of life. So does it mean that we shall live a life like a hog while we have got this human form of body? Just try to understand. The hog is eating stew, which is rejected by everyone, and still he is searching that out. Where is that stew? And it is called research work. So, we should not make our life complicated like the hog. And what is the aim of his life? The hog. The aim of his life is sex. The hogs and, especially hogs and goats, they are very sexually influenced. The hog does not discriminate. The monkeys, they do not discriminate. Mother, sister or anyone. They must have sex. So it's specially mentioned here, not like hog. Don't live like hog. This is the instruction of the Sadhguru. This human form of life is not meant for living like a hog. But it is for, that is stated in the next line, Tapo Vidyam. My dear boys, this life is meant for tapasya. Tapasya means restraining your senses. That is human. That is human civilization. The more you restrain your senses from its activities, the more you are advanced, civilized, advanced human. Tapasya, Tapasya means tapa. Tapa, from tapa, tapa comes. Tapa means temperature. So, if I restrain my senses, because we are from time immemorial, we have been practiced to indulge our senses for gratification. And in the human form of life, because we have to control the senses, it sometimes gives us some pains. I am accustomed to do something, but my spiritual master says, just like in this country, I say that you cannot take meat, you cannot smoke. So all my students, they were accustomed to this habit. But by my order, they have restrained. In the beginning, there is some pain. So that pain is called tapasya. Voluntarily accepting little pain. Tabodhika. And what for that painstaking? Divyam. For realizing the absolute truth. Not for that just like a student is working very hard to find out the possibilities of nuclear weapon. That is also tapasya. But what is that? They are for finding out some means to kill the human society. That sort of tapasya is not required. Like Ravan's tapasya or Hiranyakashipu's tapasya. Tapasya, here it is especially mentioned that you voluntarily accept some pain for realizing the absolute. Tapodiktam. Then you may answer that why shall I take so much pain for realizing the absolute? I can take some pain here for material acquisition, I shall be happy here. I do not. That answer is also given. Tapodivyam putraka jena sattam suddhe. My dear boy, you just take to this austerity, life of austerity, for realizing the absolute, by which your existence will be purified. We began because we require this human form of life is meant for being purified. So, just a diabetic patient is advised by the physician not to take so many things, not to take sugar, not to take this, not to take this. That prohibition is meant for his curing. Similarly, here also, if we accept some voluntary pains in giving up our sense gratificatory process, then our existence will be purified. Tapodivyam putraka jena sattam. Sattam means your existence. Jena sattam suddhe. Suddhe means becomes purified. Then you may ask, what is the result? Suppose if I purify by your prescription. Suddhe jasmad brahma sukham anantam. Because if you purify your existence, then you get unlimited pleasure. Your life is your finding out where is pleasure. That is anandamaya abhyasa. Every living entity is fit for enjoying because he is part and parcel of God. Because he is part and parcel, he is also enjoyer, although in the minute quantity. But he can enjoy in association with God. So in order to enter into the association of God, he has to purify himself. Jasmat Brahma Sukha. Brahma means the unlimited or spiritual. Spiritual means unlimited. unending, eternal. The greatest. These are some of the meanings of Brahma. So you are searching after pleasure. That is your prerogative. That is your right. You must be. But you are searching in this sense-gratificatory platform. You will never get it. If you purify your this existence, then you get unlimited pleasure in your spiritual existence. Unlimited. Brahma Sokham Anantam. Anantam means unlimited. So, this life we should utilize for purifying, not for extravagancy, in sense gratification, and you will not suffer. This is Maya. Actually, just like a child, a boy wants to play, and the father prescribes, my dear boy, do not play so long, please. So he is thinking that my father is prescribing something which is very troublesome. But actually this tapasya, this Krishna consciousness regulated life is not for trouble. It is for your progress of life to the spiritual understanding, wherein you get unlimited eternal life, Satchidananda Vigraha. God is Satchidananda Vigraha. Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal, Chit means full of knowledge, and Ananda, full of pleasure. So as soon as you become purified from this material existence, then you enter into the spiritual kingdom and you get your body, Satchidananda Vigraha, and live there eternally in full knowledge and full bliss. Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. No. All right. Let's see. You want to start?
Would you say something?
Yeah. Sorry, this one.
Sense gratification is available for hogs, but humans are not meant for spending their energy seeking sense gratification. Rather, they should restrict. The more you restrict, the more you're advancing the human civilization.
What I was asked, that people understand that God is great, and they don't understand what to do. Suppose that God is like our Father, and He wants us to purify our existence. Gives a good deal that if we purify our existence, then by following the four regular principles, then we can have unlimited pleasure in the spiritual world.
So God is great, and we're infinitesimal. And Krishna has 67 qualities, 64, 64, right? And we only have 50 of the qualities, and even those are in minute quantity. And he gave an example, just like the sun. May be like a little spark, but we can never say that we're the whole sun. So we're infinitesimal.
The only scarcity is the scarcity of Krishna consciousness.
All right. So what's the very first thing Prabhupada talks about in the lecture?
The last meeting.
He talks about their last meeting, and what did they do in the last meeting?
Discuss the history of Ajamil.
Discussed about Ajamil, and what was Ajamil's situation? He was addicted to a prostitute. And what happened as a result of that? His high standard of life became degraded. Okay. And then he talked about something they were doing in the morning. What was that?
Reading Sri Upanishad.
Yeah, reading Sri Upanishad. And what was the particular point that he brought out about that? God is apapa vidham, yes, without sin or infected. So God is never. God is never affected. Okay. Then he gives an example of that. What was the example he gave? Something to do with an order by some personality.
Oh, if the king says, yeah, so if the king says this person should be killed and they kill him, that's not criminal, it's you're obeying the law. He says it's a crude example, but to an ordinary person, he may do something and be culpable, but if Krishna does it, then there's no sin there. So it's like if an ordinary citizen kills someone, that's a crime. But if he kills someone in the order of God, in the order of the king.
Microphone, if you can put the microphone.
Common sense.
Common sense. So yes, to think that we can do the same thing as the king can do and be justified in that is a wrong conception. The king, you are not on the same level as the king, and therefore you cannot give or have the same authority to do things as he does. Okay. Then he talks about going higher and higher. Where does that go to?
God is great.
God is great, yes. Is anybody greater than him?
No.
Is anybody equal to him?
No.
No, that's God. Aha, asam urdhva. And what does asam mean?
Not equal.
Not equal, yes. Then he talks about some personalities and what they have done. Which personalities does he refer to?
Krishna's qualities.
Yes, the great acharyas. They have analyzed the characteristics of God. And what have they concluded?
No one's greater than him.
That no one's greater than him. But in more detail, he mentions something about God having
God has
64 qualities.
Because Brahma can have 50 qualities. That's the jivas can have at the utmost that, and even then in small quantity. But Lord Shiva has 55 qualities, and Lord Narayan has 60 qualities. Lord Krishna has all 64, so he's the most complete.
Yes, Krishna has the most of 64, and the other living entities, they've got lesser than that.
Prabhupada says that people in this age have no good qualities.
Yes, and Prabhupada said that in this age people have no good qualities. Okay, then he gives an example about like a relationship what God does and what we cannot do. Yes, yes. God, he likes to, or has a tendency to love young girl, right? And therefore he's dancing with the girls in the dead of night. So by that, understanding that, we also have the same tendency. We want to be surrounded by young girls and dance and enjoy. Now, what's the problem with that? Any problem? No?
It's not been allowed to us.
It's not been allotted at all. And even that, because we are so limited, we cannot do it in anywhere near the same quantity as God does. And of course, his doing that is on an entirely different level than our doing it. And what is the actual difference? Why How can we make his doing it good and ours doing it bad? What's the distinction that...
I remember he gives the example of if we have a heater, a small heater in our room, where we can't pretend to be like the sun. You know, just because we can make some little bit of heat, but the sun has got everything. So he uses that example that God is the actual owner of everything. And we should also, if we see things like, I'm getting ahead of the lecture, we can live without sin by seeing everything.
Right. So God is actually the owner of everything. So it's not that he's usurping someone else's property for his enjoyment. But that's exactly what happens to the fallen conditioned soul. If he takes more than his quota, then we'll get into that in a minute. Okay. Yes, okay, then he talked about Lord Shiva's got 55, and Narayan, how many has Narayan got? 60. And Krishna is the only one with the full 64. Anybody remember what the 4 more that Krishna has that Narayan doesn't?
He has flute again.
Childhood pastimes, flute playing.
Especially loving devotees. Especially beautiful, sweet form.
His loving attitude towards devotees and his wonderfully sweet form. But none of the other, even incarnations of God have, what to speak of the living entities. Okay. Then he gives a quote from the Bhagavad Gita. What is that quote? 7:7. How's that go? Kinchit asti dhananjaya, which means?
No conqueror of wealth.
Yes, conquer of wealth.
Nothing is superior to me. There's no truth superior to
No
me.
truth.
Everything is mighty, everything is like pearls strung on a thread.
Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Okay. And then he gives the example of the heater, or the heating agent.
He calls it a heating agent or a convenience.
Yes. In your apartment you may have some different forms of heating agents. What were the different forms you mentioned? Ovens, yes. Besides the heater, you've got an oven as well.
An oven in your apartment.
Yes. Of course, nowadays they have so many other heating agents. The toaster and the microwave, the
radiator, and space heater, and the central heat.
right.
Gas furnace,
Or a wood fire. Yes. Okay. So many different varieties of heaters.
Today it's very cold, so
Has special significance today. Okay, so what's happening with the sun today? Is it not giving as much heat, or what's going on? So there are other factors.
The sun is always heat, but when because of the way the earth is tilted, sometimes the cold air, because the sun rays don't come as directly, and it becomes cold air, and then the cold air moves around the earth. This is the explanation of meteorology.
Right. So the sun doesn't change in its output of heat and light. It's simply your perspective or your relationship to it changes, which will cause us to be in too much heat or too little. Okay. Then Prabhupada talks about something being ludicrous. What was the thing that he mentioned was ludicrous? Yes, you think that if you've got just a little heat, that now you've become the sun. And then he gives that as an example to another consciousness that people develop.
You don't think they become God?
Yes, you think now that you've become God just because you have some little...
He said, what can I say? They used to be less intelligent.
Ah,
There's those people who say, I'm God, you're God,
yes.
we're all God. They don't understand what God is.
They're simply less intelligent. How does it? They have no conception of God, thinking that they are of the same condition or situation as God, to be God. Okay. And then Prabhupada again emphasizes what's the difference between you and God. What was that difference?
God's waiting on you for test.
Yes.
It
That,
talks about heat. We have 98 degrees heat, but we don't have the whole heat of the sun.
Even if it becomes 107 Fahrenheit and we leave our bodies.
yes.
The sun has 1,000,000 degrees.
The sun is 1,000,000 degrees, so just like you're not at all on the same level as the sun, you're not at all on the same level as God. There's even millions of suns.
If we want to go to the sun, then we have to have qualified. It's like they're going to the moon in their special dress. They can still only stay there a few hours. Assuming they leave the body.
Yes, and then he equates that to something we so-called have done of going to the moon, and what their condition they had to go in was being in a spacesuit, because obviously they could not live without that on the moon. And then he also questions, therefore, their even ability to go there. And even if they did, they didn't really go there because they didn't enter into the atmosphere there. Just came to collect a few rocks, maybe. Okay.
So if we want to live on the platform of God, we have to become qualified.
Right, and all that's to help us understand that if you want to approach God, then you have to have godly qualities to the extent that you are able to. Okay, then he gives a quote from the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Arjuna.
Oh, Pavitram Paramam. Krishna is the supreme pure.
Yes, Pavitram Paramam. You are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme what?
Supreme purifier.
And an abode, purifier and abode. So the rest of that translation?
So, Param Brahman, you're the supreme Brahman. Ramdama, you're the supreme God. Pavitram Paramam, the supreme purifier.
Mm-hmm.
Bhagavan, you are. Purusham Shashikam, you're the original person, an eternal person. Divyam, transcendental. Adidevam, you're the original Deva, or the God of gods, the supreme, original. And with whom is great.
They say here, even he also mentions here the all-pervading beauty. And then is there more to that? How does that verse conclude?
Well, then there's another verse after it.
Oh, it's the other one after.
Yeah. There's all the sages.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
The next verse.
All right.
Avastam Shaksabe, Yivarshi Navastata,
Mm.
Sita Deva Vyasa, Swayamcha, Ishi.
So now Krishna is declaring it directly, confirming what all the sages have said. So then Prabhupada, in order to try to help us understand this principle of trying to approach the Supreme Pure, or the Absolute, to something which we find in nature. What was that example I gave? He says you can actually find everything is there in nature. If you study minutely, you become a learned philosopher. Then you can understand the principle involved with understanding things in detail.
So is that a reference to this example of the sun?
It was right afterwards, yes. Just like if you want to approach the sun, the same example can be given. Okay, but if you... Well, yeah, you up to the limit of your limited capability, of course. Not everything. Then he talks about what would be, how you could approach the sun or enter into the sun. You have to have a fiery body. And then he goes into giving the analogy of entering the moon planet.
Right, we already covered that.
Yes.
You go with special dress.
Have to go with an artificial dress.
And then you can't stay because you don't have
Can't stay more than a few hours. And that's if somebody's actually gone there. Okay. So it is possible to enter into the sun planet even, but only when you have the proper fiery body, not otherwise.
It's early to enter into spiritual life, not spiritual.
And that's all leading up to the ultimate, which we're trying to understand, is entering into the spiritual atmosphere. We need to have a spiritual body. Then we can go back home, back to Godhead. And to do that, we have to become pure. Without what? Without any contamination of material world. It needs...
Overdo sense gratification is contamination.
Right.
We're allowed to maintain our body and soul together. Human life is meant to accept some austerity voluntarily.
Yes, human life is meant to accept some austerity. And he gives an example of what the contamination of the material world is called. A seed.
Oh, it's a seed, yeah.
Yes. And then he gives an example, even elaborating on that. Not exactly the seed, but what's the example? Yes, if you become infected with some disease or germ, then you become diseased. So right now, we need to understand that we are living in a diseased condition. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are diseased. And what is our disease? No Krishna consciousness. Yes. Okay. Then he talked about mantra 1 from the Upanishad. How does that one go? Translation?
Everything in this world is owned by Krishna. And that which is moving and unmoving is owned by him. And therefore one should only accept what is set aside for his quota and should not encroach on the property of others.
This one should only accept what is set aside as his quota and not other things because they belong to someone else. And then Prabhupada helps us to apply that to something practical. What was that example or elaboration? Hmm? Yes, well, first he elaborates on the sphere of domain that includes. That's up to the sky and the water and even everything else which is outside of our vision. And who does that all belong to? It all belongs to God. So everything is God's property. And then he qualifies that. He says, even though it's all God's property and God is your Father, that doesn't mean that what? You can take it without his permission. And he gives the example in the material realm.
Your Father provides you food, place to stay, everything, but if you've got to go get cash out of his pocket, then that's not allowed.
Yes, then you're a criminal. You're stealing because your Father hasn't given that to you with his permission. You're taking it. And therefore you become a criminal, subject to the punishment of the law of God. And what is God's punishment for taking things without his permission? Yes, you take birth in this material world again and again until you learn that. Stop stealing what is not yours. So what can say what is one's proper quota? How do we understand that?
We have a body, so we need to have a certain amount of sense gratification to maintain the body. We have to eat, we have to drink, we have to sleep, we have these needs. So we're allowed to maintain our bodies like that. We shouldn't make elaborate, use a lot of energy to make more sense gratification than necessary. He says like moving it out of very little effort, we can produce so much vegetables that can't even eat it all. And so with this modern civilization, people are working very hard to get more and more sense gratification rather than living a simple life where they can practice Krishna consciousness.
Yes, you should only take the bare necessities of what's required to maintain the body and soul, and not work so hard to simply increase your sense enjoyment. So then Prabhupada talks about a father and mother. Why does he mention a father and mother?
He's quoting from 14th chapter, Asambhava Mahatmya, Hambija Pradapita. He's saying that Krishna is, Mother Nature is the mother, Krishna is the seed-giving father, so all living entities appear in this world just by God's grace.
So God provides the seed and Mother Nature provides the body, the form, right? Just like that's what happens in the material world. The father provides the seed and the mother, the child develops within the womb of the mother. She gives the body. So Krishna impregnates the material nature with the living entities, and then they come out according to their previous condition. And Prabhupada again emphasizes to help us understand why we're here in the material world. And what's the point he made? Why did we come here?
Misuse our independence.
We disobeyed. We took something from, or wanted to take something that was not allotted, given by Krishna's permission, which means basically we misused our independence, and therefore we got condemned to this material world. then Prabhupada makes a distinction between who can take advantage of this knowledge and who cannot. Animals cannot. They don't have the sufficient ability to understand.
We're not inviting dogs and cats to hear Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right. We don't invite cats and dogs because they cannot understand. Okay. And Prabhupada talks about taking a boat. What kind of boat is he talking about? A sailboat? A motorboat?
A very big boat.
Very big boat?
The boat of the human body.
Ah, the boat of the human body. How is the body?
It's a suitable boat for crossing over the ocean.
Oh, because there's a big ocean that needs to be crossed. The ocean of nescience. And how do we cross this ocean of nescience? Knowledge, the knowledge of the absolute, of our eternal position, and our conditioned situation now. And then Prabhupada is likening this analogy of boat crossing over the ocean to the universe. So how does he make that stretch from a body of water to the universe? Well, the planets are floating, right, in outer space, like an ocean. So they're like islands. Small and big, yes. And what's the Sanskrit word for island? Dweep, yes. So there's Svetadweep, and then there's, which the one we're on? Jambudweep. Yes. And it all belongs to who? To God, to Krishna, our eternal Father. So we can use his property, but not illegally. Only what has been allotted. And he gives a quote from Mantra 4 of the Upanishad. Which one that one is? Let's see.
I'm working in so many ways that as long as it's the way of God, otherwise the work finds one's a law of nature,
Yes.
law of karma.
Kurvani Viham Karmani. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. And is there any other way of doing it? No. No alternative to this way for man. So then Prabhupada says, if you accept this principle, then how long can you live for? Hundreds of years without any sin. Otherwise you become complicated in the laws of material nature. And so long as you're complicated or entangled, yes, then you have to transmigrate from one body to another. And our material existence will be prolonged. Yes. So then he talks about someone's teachings, his sons. Lord Rishabdev, and what's he trying to teach his sons?
That they have to perform, in human life they should perform austerity
This
for realizing the absolute truth.
human form of life is meant for performing austerities.
Specifically speaking about the human life, Nayam Deho Deha Pajanam Riloke. So the Riloke is the human society.
Yes.
Says that they're not meant for what is the Vibhujan, the school leaders, enjoy sense gratification too, but humans have something higher capacity.
Yes, those in the human form have the possibility of understanding and working in a way which will eventually get them free from this bondage. No longer have to work so hard just for some little bit of sense gratification.
But if purification should get, and that would be to promise yourself unlimited transcendental happiness.
Mm.
So by doing austerity is meant he describes how we have to, just like his students in the beginning, they were all habitually smoking and remember the other bad habit he mentioned, addicted to bad habits, maybe illicit sex or something. But he said that they come under his instruction, they had to give these things up, and it was a little painful at first, so that's austerity.
A little painful to give up the bad habits we're addicted to. So then he talks about you're allowed, again, some bit of sense gratification, but we should not simply try to satisfy the senses. And he gives an example of two of the senses that people are very much addicted to. They're both quite related. Which are the two? Yes, the tongue and the belly. And then he mentions the word unreasonable. What's unreasonable?
Anything not in relation to the Lord.
The what?
Anything not in relation to the Lord is unreasonable.
Oh, anything not in relationship to the Lord is considered to be unreasonable.
We only prashad.
Yes, just prashadam, and accept whatever else comes our way as Krishna's mercy, and to be utilized in his service, not for your sense gratification. And he talks about what is the allotment Krishna has given to the human being.
Rice, grains, pulses, vegetables,
Yes,
fruits and flowers.
grains, rice, pulses, vegetables, fruits, flowers, and milk. Are they sufficient to maintain the body?
Yes.
Yes. Why not?
He says in some desert places like Arabia,
Mm.
they may have to eat meat just to survive. But in America, we have so much supplies of food, we don't require to give trouble to the animals doing that.
Exactly. Well, there's sufficient supply of all the proper things that God has given us to eat. Fruits, vegetables, milk, like that. There's no justification for giving trouble to the other living entities in the animal forms, just to satisfy our tongue. Okay.
Well, that was what the other thing. His students were addicted to eating meat and smoking.
Oh yes, eating meat and smoking.
Accustomed to eating meat and smoking, but then they didn't do that, but it was a little painful at first.
And he talked about we are inviting those, what type of human beings are we inviting? Enlightened. Please come, just try to understand what is Krishna consciousness movement and what will be when we understand this Krishna consciousness movement. Happy, yes. Everybody just wants everyone to be happy. That's our program. Just be happy. Problem is, most people don't know how to be happy. They're thinking they're going to get happy by sense gratification. But They never will be. So, Prabhupada mentions how by following this principle, what will happen to our lifestyle? Become simplified, not complicated. And what's Prabhupada's definition or example of a simplified life? What's that look like? He mentions New Vrindavan. And then what's their lifestyle like there?
With little effort, they can produce enough food.
Yes, a little plot of land, they can grow the food they need and have a cow, and they don't need all of this other things that so-called modern human society is offering us. Pleasures, but simply bringing more pain. And he gives another quote from the Upanishad about the personality of God that is perfect and complete.
He supplied everything in this material world for us to live properly.
Perfectly equipped with complete whole.
It's because of mismanagement that there's scarcity.
Simply
Not to say the only scarcity of anything is Krishna consciousness.
the only scarcity is the Krishna consciousness. Yes. So right now people are not Krishna conscious, so what is their conscious?
It's like a dog. You're not with like a dog.
And they're materially conscious and they're sensually conscious. So that has to be changed. Because that type of consciousness is not going to deliver you or make you happy even in this life. And he talks about performance of two types of activities which will help one to attain the divine position of devotional service. Penance and austerity, yes. Because by engaging in penance and austerity, what's going to happen to our heart? It's going to get purified. And then when one attains this position, what happens to him?
Eternal bliss for life.
Yes, he gets eternal bliss for life, which is transcendental to material happiness, and which continues forever. And he gives a particular example of a living entity which is working hard day and night. The hog. How is he working hard? Looking for stool. Yes. Well, after he gets enough stool, yes.
Research work.
Yes. You don't have to do much research work. You simply have to go out and try to find it. Where is stool? Where is stool?
And he says that somebody may be researching how to make a nuclear bomb and destroy human society. That's not good.
And
That we should research the absolute truth.
So, genuine, proper use of the human form is to search after not how to increase death, but realize our eternal life. And he gives, besides the hogs and dogs, he mentions another animal, which is the monkeys. Why does he mention them? Yes, because yes, they don't discriminate who they relate with. Then Prabhupada says that the more that you do something, then the more that you'll get something.
The more that you reduce unnecessary sense gratification, and the more you become purified.
Yes.
Advancement in these.
Yes, the more you'll be advanced in real civilized life by restraining your senses from its activities. And what's the word for that restraint?
Tapa.
Tapa. Yes. And what does tapa actually mean?
Tapa means austerity, at least the tapa. I think you mentioned that. Tapa means the tapa.
Temperature.
Temperature.
Yeah, tapa means temperature.
Maybe I thought there was a change in the pronunciation.
Well, he says tapa. Tapa is from tap. But tapa means temperature. So if I restrain my senses, that's going to reduce my temperature? Why is how's the word temperature related to austerities?
I didn't quite catch it.
Okay.
Tapa is related to, it creates tejas, power.
Yeah.
Tapa,
So if I restrain my senses, let's see, the problem is from time immemorial we have not restrained our senses, but have simply indulged them. And as a result of that, we are been continually stuck in the material world. And then he talks about controlling the senses, giving some pain. So for that type of pain, from voluntarily accepting or rejecting things which are not meant for our benefit, will help us to realize the absolute truth. We can become free from our addiction to them. So then he puts forth what some conditioned soul might say, that why shall I take so much pains for realizing the absolute? I can take some pains here for material acquisition, then I'll be happy. So then Prabhupada says the answer is also given. What was the answer? Actually this particular verse is talking about.
The hogs can also have that. This verse, I haven't been able to get that much memory.
Yeah, tapo divyam putraka yena sapam.
So by doing the prescribed austerity to realize the absolute truth, you become purified and then you can attain real happiness. Brahma Sattva, he talks about the meaning of Brahma. And it means unlimited, great, and eternal.
Yes, then he gives an example of a particular type of patient. A diabetic patient. What's he advised to do? Not to take sugar. Or this or that. And why does he advise that? For to help cure him of his condition, that he has given a particular diet. So in the same way, God has given us a particular diet to cure us from our material conditioning, so we can become purified. So then Prabhupada goes on to say that, well, someone then may ask, what is the result of this tapasya or purity? Unlimited pleasure. Yes, if you purify existence, then you get unlimited pleasure, which is the whole purpose of this life. When you're searching after pleasure, you not get the unlimited pleasure. Yes. Okay, so everyone is searching after pleasure. That's your natural condition, is pleasure seeking. But you must do it in a way prescribed by God to actually achieve that pleasure that you're looking for, which is actually unlimited. And he talks about Father prescribing something. What's the Father prescribing? And how does he take to it? The dear boy.
Child wants to play.
The child wants to play. Yes. He wants him to, yes. Read. He wants him to read. Please read. Don't play so long. So the son is thinking, my father's prescribing something which is very troublesome. But actually, it is not trouble. It's not for trouble. It is for your progress. And he gives a quote from Brahma Samhita, the first text of the 5th chapter. Satchidananda Vigraha. Yes. And what's the translation of that?
He said that Krishna is form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. He says that we're also meant for life of eternity, knowledge, and bliss.
Yes. Krishna's form is full of eternal blissful knowledge, and he's the origin of all, and has no other origin. It is the prime cause of all causes. So simply we have to become purified from this material existence, and then we can enter where? Yes, the spiritual kingdom, and get a Satchidananda Vigraha, which is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. And that's how Prabhupada concludes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi.